Marc Thiessen, American Enterprise Institute scholar and a Fox News contributor, and Juan Williams, co-host of The Five and Fox News political analyst. Good to see you both.
Nice to be with you.
Juan, the president got a nice letter from President Xi.
I'm going to send you a nice letter. I mean, come on. If Mark and I sent you nice letters, it doesn't mean we have a deal. In fact, what we see is threats to escalate this trade war, which has been damaging our farmers, damaging manufacturing, costing us jobs. But it's not just here. You stop and think about what happened in Venezuela with the Maduro regime. You know, we thought that we had Juan Guaido on the way in. That exploded. Now the president has some bad feelings. You look at what's going on with North Korea firing missiles again. It just looks like the Trump foreign policy is basically to trigger a crisis and then try to get something out of it with added leverage. But so far, it hasn't worked out for him. Well,
Mark, that's Juan's view, but it seems like China is not necessarily in the strongest position right now, and maybe President Trump sees that weakness because their economy is in bad shape.
Well, I'm a little bit disappointed to hear my friend Juan taking that take on this situation because, look, these are not partisan issues. I mean, he brought up Venezuela. Republicans and Democrats have an interest in promoting democracy in Venezuela. Republicans and Democrats should both agree that China is an economic predator and that we have to confront them. Republicans and Democrats should both agree that North Korea is a existential threat if it gets a nuclear weapon to the United States. Sure. So we should all be supporting President Trump and trying to help him get a deal. And to his credit, Chuck Schumer is doing that. Chuck Schumer tweeted out the other day that he said that don't back down, President Trump. The only thing China understands is strength. China needs to understand that when Chuck Schumer is tweeting support for Donald Trump, they're in trouble.
Well, Juan, that's a good question, Juan. What beef do you have with Chuck Schumer? Because Chuck Schumer is saying, look, the president is right that the only thing the Chinese understand is strength, Juan. So why are you disagreeing with Chuck Schumer?
No, I'm not. By the way, I agree with what Mark said. I don't think this is necessarily a partisan issue. If the president's not responsible for the fact that we have a trade crisis with China, that's China that did that. But what the president did as a matter of strategy was to escalate it by imposing the tariffs and now getting locked into a trade war with no agreement on the horizon.
But he got their attention, Juan.
You can get their attention, but I would just say, listen, let's have an objective measure. Are we better off now, given Trump's strategy, given his provocative statements with North Korea, than we were when he came in? No.
Yes. Yes, we are.
Answer that question, Mark.
And so we are better off. And look, the reality is Trump has figured out that we're not going to get China to change its trade practices by filing a strongly worded letter. We talked about letters with the WTO. The reality is that the U.S. economy is booming right now. We have a comparative advantage because of 3.2% economic growth, lowest unemployment in 5 decades. China, on the other hand, they have the slowest growth in 3 decades. Their wages are declining. Their manufacturing sector is shedding jobs. Their population is aging and productivity is going down. So Trump calculates that, one, the United States can better withstand a trade confrontation with China than China can, and two, she needs this deal more than he does because our economy is strong. We can withstand when you're well armed economically, you can withstand a trade war. China cannot withstand a trade war with the United States. So we're in a position of strength to negotiate.
Well, I think you should then talk to the farmers. I think you should talk to the people in manufacturing who are being hurt by this, and you should talk to the American people. Trump has when you switch the topic from foreign policy to economic and say we have a strong economy, you're exactly right, Mark. The American people, I think, give Trump his highest marks of approval on the economy. But when it comes to foreign affairs, he's way underwater, only like 40% approve, while 50+% disapprove of the kind of explosive handling of foreign policy under this president.
So China tried that, Juan. Last time around, before the last election, they imposed tariffs on soybeans to try and hurt Trump voters. They actually targeted Trump voters with these farmers. And you know what happened? Trump went to them. He said, "I'm fighting for you." And rural voters, the suburban voters defected from Trump in the last election. Rural voters stuck with him. So Trump knows the rural voters understand that he's going to war with China to fight for them, and those voters are going to back him.
And last point, Juan, you mentioned manufacturing a moment ago. This president has created more manufacturing jobs than we ever saw in the last administration.
No, we're losing manufacturing jobs at the moment.
That's not true.
You look at what's going on with the promise to build Foxconn in Wisconsin. You look at he just promised a new plant in Ohio. It's only going to have 100 workers.
That's not factually incorrect what you just said. 500,000 manufacturing jobs have been added. Fastest manufacturing growth in 24 years, and the people who are benefiting the most are people in the Trump economy are people without a high school education who are the forgotten Americans. Their wages went up 6%
This is a
last year.
declining sector of our economy.
Well, Mark, I'm going to
Not
get those
anymore.
stats you cited, which I think you're right on manufacturing. I will send them to Juan in
Thank
a
you.
nicely worded letter.
A letter to follow.
Juan, Mark, appreciate you coming
Lovely
in.
letter, yeah.